This is another episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. Man, I got some fun for you today. One of my best friends in the stand-up comedy industry. He has been on this podcast many times, but I wanted to get a chance to kind of catch up and touch base with him because he is so busy. I'm going to tell you what he's been doing. But first, let's get him on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Steve Bruner.
Oh. I wish every intro was like that.
They love having you on the show. I got to tell you, in the last 5+ years of doing this podcast, one of my favorite regulars and always terrific comedy is Mr. Steve Bruner.
Oh, well, I'm glad to be here again, and I'm really glad that the success of your podcast and everything has gone, and you're still including the old school guys.
Oh, yeah.
No screaming in the background. There's swimming going on behind me because I'm not in any office situation. So nobody's drowning. I just thought I'd let you know.
Well, that's good to know. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me kind of just remind you who Mr. Bruner is. Not only one of the funniest comics in Northern California, but he's performed all over the world. He's also known for being one of the cleanest comics, does a lot of corporate and special events. On this show, he shared a lot of really funny material. He does wineries, private clubs, corporate gigs. He's been on Dry Bar Comedy. And just recently, you were doing a cruise on the Crystal Serenity. So you're...
Oh, my goodness. Look at you.
You're all over
my social media apparently is working. Look at that.
Well, I always keep up with my friends, but Steve, you really do work hard, and we're getting to an age where that's not quite as easy as it was maybe 20 years ago, but you have been a successful stand-up comic for your whole life, made a great career out of it. Do you ever doubt your thoughts of getting into the comedy industry?
It was fun even when I was starving. So you can't live on thoughts, and I always thought there was going to be something further going, but when I made $12.20 at the Holy City Zoo, I was like, yep, that's it. I know I can live on $12.20 for about a week and a half. I'll be fine. Top ramen is good.
Well, it is about perspective. And I think you mentioned the key thing there is you always had a good time. It's fun, right?
I tell people all the time, if I could find something that was 1/10 as enjoyable, because aspects of this can certainly be complicated, the travel and the being away from people and the hustle, that I'd probably be selling shoes if it gave me just that. But it's a different, I don't want to say it's a drug, but it's because I don't know much about drugs, so I certainly don't want to, but it is just a thrill to come up with a thought and make other people laugh with that thought. It's just like nothing I've ever experienced, and I still get to experience it. And a new idea that gets a bunch of strangers to think like you do in a way, or be surprised by a twist you put on it is, I don't want to be simplistic, but it's joyful. It's just joyful. It's a fun biz. Yeah, it's a fun biz. I hope that was a good answer.
Well, you won't be quizzed, I promise. But it is true that you have to enjoy what you're doing. And two things I took from what you just shared. One is the importance of being in the moment, enjoying it. And it's really not about the money. It's about sharing the funny with a room full of strangers and getting them on board with your thinking. And then,
well, I do like the money, Scott. Don't think I don't try to lower my price here. Steve, if you could just come here for the pat on the back, we'd be really happy to have you every week. And the other thing, I don't do very much well. And as I tell everybody, if the zombie apocalypse happened, I would pretty much be food. I am really happy I'm in a time and a place and where comedy is rewarded. And, I'm not famous. I'm just successful.
Well, that's a great way to put it. But I also wanted to mention that you alluded to it, but for the audience, it is a job, it is a career. So there's all the business side, there's the challenges
Right.
of travel, as you mentioned, being away from loved ones, having to market yourself and you're basically like a contract lawyer. You have to do not only the marketing, but complete the contracts. You're a producer of your show. You have to make sure you're presented well. That means good sound and good lights. And you know from working all the hell gigs that there's nothing guaranteed, right?
No, and I think I'm coming out with a new card called the Ambulance Chaser of Comics. I think that's going to be it for the for the lawyer reference. I think that's going to be it. Yeah, you just gotta. There's a lot of things to think about. At this point, I'm a little luckier in that I have somewhat of a reputation. I got some things online that people call because they find it. I'm able to spend a little more time writing and a little less time on the hustle. But there was 20 years of phone calls and getting agents to like me. And there's a couple guys out there that I have gotten down to the top 2 in wonderful corporate events, and they beat me out 95 times out of 100. And I'm just like, all right, I just got to keep writing. And I think they're extremely funny.
Well,
they are such funny people.
But you bring up another point that's I try to beat into people that listen to this podcast, so I apologize. But it is so important to be a writer. One of the keystones to being a professional and successful stand-up comic is being a good comedic writer. And I know that you really work at that. In fact, you've had a few writing clubs and you try to write every day, right?
I do. I look at old ideas and try to come up with a tag. Yeah, I think writing is one of the most important things in the world. And there's a couple guys that I write continually with, and I still go to open mics and I see something and it just gets your head. I see the world, as my grandfather, I think, said, a bubble off plum. I just see it different, and I can see connections. And sometimes I can get other people to see connection. I write them down. I have so many. There's no matchbooks anymore, but I have so many small pieces of paper with an idea, and I sometimes am able to put them together and make a joke and then a bit. If 3 jokes, I always think, are a bit because they connect, and then you can maybe sometimes even get a routine, and it's kind of a fun puzzle to put together new thoughts in the world or old thoughts differently. Or I enjoy writing just about as much as anything. So that's where I'm lucky enough to be.
Well, I think it's a terrific advice for anybody listening that wants to get into the industry to know how important it is to be a good writer. And I think you brought up 2 things that were one is good and one is surprising. The good thing is to be a successful stand-up comic, you do have to kind of view the world with a little bit of your own twist on it. In other words, it's finding the funny in everybody's life, but you're finding your funny twist on it. The other thing that surprised me is that you're still doing open mics. I mean, you're a 40-year professional comic that's made millions of dollars, and you're still doing the free open mics. That's amazing.
You know, I'm not doing them as much, and I do them when I have an idea. There's nothing. I look at it as at bat. I'm not a baseball player, but I assume that you got to swing the bat to remember how to swing the bat. And sometimes an idea in your head just sounds better through a microphone. And I know almost immediately when it escapes my lips in a crowd of 15 people, of which 10 are comics, that this joke's going to work. I just know the rhythm and the feel and the taste. The response is nice, certainly in those situations, but just the practice of it that's not in front of your mirror seems for me to be of great benefit. And I like the camaraderie of comics. I like people that think differently and put together ideas and see a new piece of thought. And sometimes it's an old thought seen in a new way. I just really enjoy being around that kind of creativity. I'm not a poet, but I understand that poets go to poetry readings. They read a lot of poetry. Writers of stories read a lot of stories. I like the ideas of comics that just have a twist or a saying or a way to reveal it. And I like being in that environment, man.
Yeah, I always coin it as, find the funny. But I think what's interesting is one of the things I'm always recommending to young people that want to get into the business is you just have to keep getting on stage. And it's kind of like your baseball analogy. You have to practice, practice, practice. Nothing is going to happen if you just do it once or twice. One of the things that drives me nuts is that people think if they can do a 30-second reel on TikTok, that makes them a comic.
Well, it can make them a living, and we are in a different world than when you started hiring me as an opener, Scott. That it is a different world. Somebody can do 7 minutes on TikTok, be seen by 10 million people, get advertising, and make a car payment. It's way different. I'm glad I was able to come up and work clubs and see the people. I would not know how to make a living in the same way now. There's still the old school way, the corporate party, the college event. But people are sometimes, hey, how many Instagram followers do you have? How many people follow you on this, that, or the other? And I have no idea. I hired that out because I'm bad at it. But I spend my time writing and if somebody has a good hook, more power to them. I think there's a lot of ways to make people laugh. I laugh on short venues. I think the big thing, I don't know when this is coming out. You said it's coming out in a few months or whatever, that right now the audience participation aspect of comedy is huge. I mean, there's so much crowd chat, and I've never been super gifted at that. It happens when it happens, and sometimes they're able to add some things, but it's almost an entire genre of comedy that is more power to them. It's just not what I do. I kind of stay at home, or I have a little writing office now. That's how successful I am, people. That I go there and think of my little ideas to share with people, and I want their part of the conversation to mostly be laughter. And every now and again, somebody will say something. They'll add to a thought. They'll give me a direction that I hadn't really thought about. And I listen to everybody, and then I kind of funnel it through my own processes. And it's a great. I just don't know what else I would do. And this sounds very much like a TED Talk, but I'm sorry. There's more humor.
No, but the point is,
and I'm sure there are humorous TED Talks, but This is not.
Yeah, but what you're making the point is that things are different. Marketing's different. Interacting with the audience is different. And yes, I'm old school. I'm an old guy, and I got started back in the late 70s, 1980, when I opened my chain of clubs. But
Man,
I still
first club I ever worked a week at, buddy. Just so you know.
Well,
first
I'm
one
very
the week.
proud of that and all the success you've had. But going back to the old school thought, I still think that even though there's TikTok success and real success, and of course I even use reels for marketing, but I think that to be a successful variety artist in the field of stand-up comedy, our industry, it all is that interaction, that live person to live person engagement with a room full of strangers, and getting them to follow your path, your thought pattern, and they see the funny that you find in regular life. For example, I mentioned that you were just on the Crystal Serenity cruise, but you've done a lot of cruises.
I have.
The cruise audiences are a little different than a comedy club or a winery, right?
They are, especially the Crystal Serenity. I believe that this was a 60-day cruise. So let me just
that's a long time on a boat.
Hey, that's 20 days more than Noah. So I'm just
that's
so long.
That's funny.
They went everywhere, and I was on the last couple days. So my point was, and I think I made a comment about it. One, they're very wealthy, and they're much older, and they're in Europe. And I could have been the best comedian I had ever been. I could have been and I think I'm pretty good at this thing, or else my reputation hasn't gotten out enough to get me left behind. But these people were at the Vatican the afternoon before they saw my show. So it didn't matter if I was great. I didn't even make the top 20 of the things that they would write home about. So it is a different, it's a different ego. It's a little harder in that you're doing at this point 2 different 45-minute shows. And that's a lot. That's just a lot to work. That's a lot to connect. That's a lot that just has to go right. It's a different animal. And fortunately, I've been able to write that much material and enough. I don't do stuff out of the newspaper. I've never been real strong on topical, but and some political stuff these days can certainly divide a room. But here you are in Europe and on the ships, and I can mention a couple things about the ships, but I think they've already seen and been. I mean, they were on the ship 56 days when I got there, or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but it is different than a corporate event where you're the big cheese and everybody's like had their good time. They've got their awards and now they're just settled back to be entertained. They've seen 60 shows. Wow. And you are one among a myriad of them. And sometimes they've had a busy day and they're just tired. And, you shake a lot of hands. This last cruise, it was such a beautiful Serenity is, such a beautiful ship. They're all at this point, at this level, ships are just great. And, but they are kind of reserved after a long day of touring and seeing sights and sounds. So yeah, you gotta, it's definitely not a club where every, 15 seconds you're getting a big laugh or getting a comment, or if some people do the metrics, it's every 6 seconds you want to laugh. And, boy, that's some rapid fire stuff. So,
well, I think it speaks, but it speaks well of your writing, because I know your act. I know that you've got a whole 5-10 minutes of, welcome to the cruise, where it's the first day or second day on the cruise ship. And after they've been on for that long, you're having to edit all that material out, right?
Yeah. They don't care about the welcome aboard a lifeboat drill.
Prepare to die.
Yeah. Hey, this is really good, Scott, because if I'm ever feeling poorly, I can have you do one of my shows. This is great.
Well, I only know your act because it's so funny, but it is true that it goes to another regular thing that people hear on this podcast, so I apologize to my audience, but every audience is different. You have to read the room. So even though you're on a cruise ship and you've done hundreds, if not thousands of cruise shows, you have to adapt to an older audience that's been on ship for 60 days.
Yes. And a quick story that I got to see that maybe my third cruise is a wonderful singer. I believe it was Elvie Rose out of Florida. Beautiful Cuban background, fantastic voice. And as I recall, she was closing the last night of the cruise, and I had done okay, and the juggler was on, and he had done okay, and the dance shows had done fine, but she was the big, and what a booming voice or whatever. And at the end, she sings My Way. And there was somebody that had a helicopter was flying in, and they had to be wheeled out through her show. And she was singing My Way, and now the end is near. I have to face my final curtain. And it was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
You never know what's going to happen.
She just dealt with it, and she goes, "This is an inappropriate song for the moment. I am going to sing it." And everybody gave her a standing ovation because the band already knew the number. She wasn't going to impromptu a happy birthday, and she did it with such, and people, standing ovation given one of the more complicated situations I had seen, and she handled it with great aplomb. So aplomb. So you have to sometimes verve. Comics can verve a little bit more than people in a musical or a band playing, stuff or whatever. So it's I love show business. Every night's different. And sometimes your material works. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm just lucky that mine's worked more often than not so far.
Well, it's because you're so good, but you bring up a real truism in that I feel from my time on stage and as a producer that the audiences always appreciate honesty. So if something goes awry or there's some unique situation and you're willing to deal with it honestly with the audience, they appreciate that and understand that, I've heard of from other guys that do cruises that, right in the middle of the show, somebody might die. And right.
That has not happened yet, but I would keep that joke. I would, and listen, folks, this joke has killed a couple people. So I just want to say,
you killed,
this has literally killed people. And oh my gosh, I would want that horribly on tape just to show people that the power my comedy has.
Well, what's interesting about it was that it does happen sometimes on these cruise ships with the older people, but the comedy entertainer or the singer or the magician or whatever, it's kind of the old adage, the show must go on. And so if you're just audience, honest with the audience, hey, everybody, this has been a tragic moment. And, we send our prayers to the family, but, we want to make sure that you have a good time, and you segue back slowly into what you're doing, whatever the entertainment is. The audience appreciates that you're all going through a difficult moment, and it's your job as the entertainer, whatever you're doing, to keep that cohesion in the group, right?
Absolutely. You're sharing the moment is probably one of the most beautiful things that happens in live performing. I don't care who or where or what you are. It's wonderful that way. I was on I have a bit about that. Oh, there's somebody sleeping in the front row. Can we keep our laughter a little bit more muted? Because he should be, it's his vacation. He should be able to sleep where he wants to. And you know what? He's not a young man. Maybe he's not asleep.
Well, reading the room and moving along with whatever happens is what makes our industry so amazing. Now we're going into 2026. Are there any projects, anything you're looking forward to, anything special coming up for Mr. Steve Bruner?
I'm always trying to figure out, I always read a lot of books on comedy. Some of them leave a little bit out on the things on my process of writing. It would be wonderful to actually get the ideas that I have in a little folder together and just put out not a how to or whatever, but how I do. And maybe it would help somebody out there. There's so many great books on how to write jokes that it's more I don't like making fun of people per se. I like making fun of people in general, not people in specific. And I someday just want to write it out for me so it's coherent. If it helped anybody else out there, I would find that of value. But no, 2026 is just going to be another year where I'm figuring out new ways to be amusing to strangers.
Well, you heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Bruner is not the Don Rickles of the generation. He doesn't
Not yet. Maybe the world will turn and I will be, oh yeah, you know what? Let's make fun of everybody.
And it'd be interesting.
They do it so well. I don't do it that well.
Well, the other thing is that you are a wise man. You are a good writer. So I imagine that a book about how you made your comedy and your view of the world funny for so many tens of thousands of people over the years, I think would be of value, especially to the next generation of entertainers. Well, Steve, it's always great to have you on the show, and I appreciate you sharing, some of your wisdom and some of your experience. Thank you so much.
I know that your podcast at some point after reaching a certain level, you're like, okay, I've done this. I just want to express to everybody out there listening what a pleasure it is for you to include people like me, being a friend for a long time. It's always fun to talk to you. It's always fun to talk comedy with you. I appreciate your insight, and I also appreciated all the work over the years. But beyond that, our friendship has been greatly entertaining for me, and I appreciate it.
I don't know if I've ever been told I'm an entertaining friend. It is kind of funny because I'm the producer and I'm usually interacting with people like you, the funny ones. But thanks for those kind words, and thanks so much for all you've shared, not only to me and my podcast and my life, but also what you're doing as an entertainer, whether it's a cruise ship, a winery, a corporate, or a comedy club. Whatever you're doing, you bring your humor and your view of the world, and I think that that's very special, so thank you.
You bet. I look forward to seeing you in person, even if we're not doing something for the masses.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that interview with my good friend Steve Bruner. Let's listen to a little bit of a stand-up comedy right now.
Women are in charge because they have everything to remember. They don't trust us to be in charge. I have to admit that. Because really, they think guys would do things backwards. Probably true. Every guy I know, he was in charge of his wedding. He'd start out with a honeymoon. Move to the reception, get drunk with his friends, feeling no pain. What the hell? Get married. Women are in charge because they have everything to remember. First, they have to remember to get a beautiful dress for themselves. Then they have to remember to get a bunch of ugly dresses for their bridesmaids. Saying that really dumb thing. You'll wear it again. I promise you'll wear it again. Oh, yeah. When's this Pepto-Bismol pink big bow in the back thing going to happen for me again? You know, I'm going to wear this frock again at your funeral. That's what I'm saving it for. They have their little traditions, as I understand. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. Guys have nothing like this. What a guy, something old, underwear. Something blue, underwear. Where women are crazy about their dress. My wife spent $2,000 of her dad's money on a wedding dress. Good thing it was her dad's money. She came to me asking for $2,000 for a dress she was going to wear one time with a... What are you, crazy? Borrow an old blue dress. Come on. That's 3 out of 4. I'm thinking of you. That's what you do. Day after the wedding, like a lot of you lovely ladies with your big, beautiful dress, she had it boxed up and then sat in the top of the closet. $2,000 worth of dress. If I was her dad, I paid anywhere near that much money for a dress. I better be getting pictures of her wearing that dress out in the yard mowing the lawn. Good thing she never came to me and said, honey, I have nothing nice to wear. Au contraire. I think this dress still has a few miles left on it. Come on. You're going to be the best looking babe at the bowling alley. Hurry up, we got to go. Which is why women are in charge of the wedding, because they have a more romantic vision of what it takes to put a wedding together. That's what women want, romance and extravagance. And I know all about these two because I married a Catholic gal. So some of us know it was one of those long religious stand-up, sit-down, fight kind of weddings. And then I'm not Catholic myself, so my entire side of the family was totally out of shape for this thing. 10 minutes into it, completely winded. Okay, we'll convert. Just let us sit on these cushy knee pads. Any chance I'm passing out that wine again? That would really help us out. We missed it the first time. Thought it was a secret handshake deal. Didn't know how to get in the club. The camera pans. It's like her half is crying, my half is smearing on Bengay. Grandma, you stay down there. We'll lube you at halftime. Somebody get a banana for Grandma. She's cramping. Come on. It was a long wedding, people. We not only lit candles, we made them.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's been my good friend Steve Bruner. We'll be back next week with some more great stand-up comedy. Steve, I know you're up at the cabin having fun with the boys. Thank you so much for finding some time to share with us.
You bet. Talk to you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.